They chuckled the moment he walked in, whispered jabs about his suit, snickers about whether he was lost. One of them, smirking behind a paper coffee cup, even asked if he was there to deliver lunch. They thought they knew who he was, what he was, a nobody in a tailored jacket, an interloper in their sanctified halls of power. What they didn't know was that the man they mocked was about to upend every assumption they had ever clung to. This wasn't a story of corporate politics as usual. It was the collision of arrogance and accountability, when prejudice smirked into power and lost. Not just another success story, but a reckoning. Malcolm Reed walked into the gleaming lobby of Whitestone and Bright Enterprises with a steady stride that commanded attention. Morning sunlight streamed through towering windows, slicing the marble floor into geometric brilliance. Everything about the place, its polished gold accents, minimalist sculptures, and faint lemon polish scent, spoke of wealth meant to intimidate. Malcolm didn't flinch. His charcoal blue suit fit like a second skin, his black leather briefcase swinging rhythmically at his side. Years of experience had taught him how to walk through spaces like this. Purposeful, calm, but ready for the small, inevitable disrespect that often met men like him. He approached the reception desk, a crescent of marble manned by a woman whose frosted nails clicked against a keyboard. "Good morning," Malcolm said evenly. The receptionist didn't look up. Malcolm waited a beat longer. "Excuse me," he said, voice steady. "I'm here for a 9 o'clock meeting on the executive floor." No reaction. Before Malcolm could decide whether to repeat himself, a shadow moved at the edge of his vision. A security guard, bald, broad, mid-50s, wearing the kind of expressionless authority that said he was used to not asking questions. His name tag read Winston. "Deliveries go around the back," Winston said flatly, positioning himself between Malcolm and the elevators. "Corporate access only." Malcolm took in Winston's squared stance, the subtle flex of his hand near his belt radio. He inhaled slowly. "I'm not making a delivery," he said. "I'm here for a meeting." Winston barely reacted. "This area is restricted. You'll need to exit and check through the vendor entrance." Malcolm offered no argument yet. He pulled out his phone, thumbed through his email, and found the invitation, a signed, sealed briefing scheduled for the executive strategy team. "Would you like to see my confirmation?" he asked. Winston's nostrils flared slightly, but he didn't answer. Behind him, the lobby continued its muted buzz. Heels clicked on marble, elevator doors chimed, muted conversations floated in the air. But here, in this corner, time froze around Malcolm and the man silently barring his path. Malcolm stepped back and surveyed the layout. A small bank of chairs along the far wall, where vendors and messengers were expected to wait, that he didn't sit. Instead, he glanced at his watch. 8:49, 11 minutes until the meeting. 11 minutes until all the assumptions swirling around him would come crashing down. That he straightened his shoulders and strode calmly past the receptionist, still unmoving, and pressed the elevator call button. From the corner of the lobby, 3 men in trim suits rounded a marble pillar. Laughter echoed briefly as they spotted Malcolm. One, a freckled redhead, leaned into his buddies and quipped, "Someone lose a courier?" The others chuckled, loudly enough for Malcolm to hear. One of them peeled away from the group, approaching with faux concern. "Hey man, you lost. This is senior management territory." His voice oozed mock helpfulness. "Service elevators are back that way." Malcolm met his gaze with a calm, unreadable expression. "I know exactly where I'm going," he said. "Do you?" The man blinked, caught off guard by the quiet steel in Malcolm's voice. Before he could reply, another figure arrived, blonde, square-jawed, exuding entitlement. Greg Anders, Director of Strategic Development. He slowed as he approached Malcolm, eyes narrowing with thinly veiled hostility. "Can I help you?" Greg asked, each word dripping suspicion. "Malcolm Reed," Malcolm replied smoothly. "I'm here for the 9 o'clock executive briefing." Greg's lips curled into a disbelieving smirk. "And who invited you?" "Mr. Langford's office," Malcolm said evenly. "I'm consulting on the Halcyon merger." At that, Greg's smirk deepened. Right? Consulting. He made no attempt to mask his disdain. Well, we don't typically open strategic briefings to outside vendors. I'm not a vendor, Malcolm said, his voice sharpening just a degree. Sure you're not, Greg said, chuckling as he turned back to his colleagues. Maybe shadowing someone. In turn, maybe. The others laughed again, comfortable in their mockery. Malcolm let their derision hang for a moment longer before replying, his voice like ice against steel. You should check your facts before you embarrass yourself further. Greg snorted. Look, why don't you wait downstairs? We'll have someone check credentials. Policies, you know. He winked. Corporate security and all that. Just then, a woman in a navy blazer hurried toward them from a side hallway, tablet clutched in her hand. Mr. Reed, she called. Sorry for the delay. We're ready for you upstairs. Conference room C-12. The color drained from Greg's face. She turned to him briskly. Greg, this is Mr. Reed. He's leading the briefing on the Halcyon integration. Executive Board Directive. Greg stepped back, his mouth twitching. Malcolm didn't say a word. They walked to the elevators together, but just before Malcolm stepped inside, Greg muttered, Word of advice. Next time, you might want to wear something less synthetic. Presentation matters here. Malcolm regarded him coolly. Appreciate the tip, he said. I'll be sure to dress to your expectations after you meet mine. Greg flushed, but said nothing more. As the elevator doors slid shut, Malcolm faced forward, his reflection crisp against the polished glass. No anger, no triumph, just clarity. The top-floor reception was quieter, lined with sleek glass offices and minimalist art. Malcolm was met by an assistant who ushered him to wait by the frosted conference room door. Inside, through the haze of the glass, he saw the board assembling. Polished executives, murmuring confidently among themselves. He waited. Across the room, Greg slithered to his seat near the front, shooting glances at Malcolm through the glass. Next to him, a teenage-looking intern was ushered in without question, already seated, already part of the club. The intern's wrinkled shirt and scuffed shoes drew no comment. The receptionist downstairs had smiled at him, had waved him in. Malcolm remembered every detail. And as he stood silently outside the executive room, he watched Greg lean toward his assistant, Lana, and whisper, These people really think a nice suit can buy them a seat at the table. Lana said nothing, but she heard. Everyone heard. When the assistant finally opened the door and gestured Malcolm in, conversation dropped into awkward murmurs. Greg didn't rise to greet him. No one did. We were just discussing quarterly projections, Greg said to the room, smiling blandly. Hopefully Mr. Reed can catch up. Malcolm didn't flinch. He stepped to the head of the table, opened his briefcase, and pulled out a single signed letter. Official authorization from the Executive Council. He laid it in front of Greg without a word. Greg glanced at it, sneered, and in one fluid motion, tore it clean down the middle. You don't belong here, Greg said. This is my floor, my meeting, my company. The board shifted uneasily, but Malcolm's voice remained soft. That was a legal document you just destroyed. Greg shrugged. Sue me. The tension in the room crackled. Malcolm bent down, picked up the shredded halves, and tucked them neatly back into his briefcase. Then he straightened, fixed Greg with a steady gaze, and said, Thank you for showing everyone exactly what leadership looks like around here. The words fell like stones into water, rippling through the room. Malcolm turned on his heel and left at the conference table. A few board members exchanged low, concerned whispers. Joanna Green, the senior VP of operations, scribbled a note on her pad and underlined it twice. Escalation imminent. Greg smiled smugly to himself. That smile would not survive the next 15 minutes.